Hey guys, Telegram Sam here. If you don't already know, I have an Instagram. It's Telegram _Sam _vinyl. So if you're on Instagram, check me out on there. But today's video is just going to be a recent vinyl pickups where I show and talk about some recent record purchases I've made. So yeah, let's get straight into it. First off, we have a very cool Japanese pressing of At the Sound of the Bell by Pavlovs Dog. Pavlovs Dog is like one of those bands that I've heard about but like have never really delved into. This is an original 1976 Japanese press prog rock. This is their second studio album, and this was an album where the band was kind of falling apart. This was the last album they were to release before some of the band members reformed in the 90s and kind of put out a few records. But yeah, Andy McKay from Roxy Music plays saxophone here, and you have Bill Bruford from Yes, King Crimson, and Genesis playing on drums. But yeah, I don't have any Japanese presses with an obi, so that's why I kind of mainly got this, because I just think, the obis are just so cool. But yeah, I don't really know how I feel about this band. I like the music and the instrumentation, but the singer is just... I don't know if I like his voice. Let's just say that. I might give this a few more listens and kind of see if I really want to like keep it in my collection. I think I got this for like $30 off of Discogs from one of my local record stores here because I was too lazy to go out and get it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this one. Let me know your thoughts and feelings if you've listened to Pavlov's Dog, if maybe I just need to listen to one of their other albums, but yeah, I just don't know how I feel about this one yet. Next up, we got an album that was actually released earlier this year, I think in February. This is Loss of Life by MGMT. This is 2024 press because it came out in February, like I said. But, this is psych, rock, pop, kind of like the usual MGMT thing. But this is their fifth studio album and their first new album in 6 years. I am a massive fan. I'm a massive fan of MGMT. I think it's called Auricular Spectacular or something like that. Like if I were to make a list of the best albums to come out in the last 25 years, that would definitely be at the top of my list. This is a little bit less upbeat. I feel like this is a little bit more like chiller, almost kind of like lo-fi sort of pop rock psych stuff. Not as like sort of dance party-esque as a lot of their other stuff is. But I believe both of the members have gotten married and had kids recently. So I don't know, I kind of have this theory that like once, especially like male artists kind of like get famous and then like settle down and like have kids, I feel like they kind of lose their juice a little bit. I don't know, I just feel like I've kind of have noticed that throughout learning about music and music history. And I'm not saying this is a bad album, I just don't think it was exactly what I was expecting from them, considering their last few releases. I don't know, again, this is like a meh album to me, but yeah, we'll see if it ends up staying in the collection. And this one came on a really cool dark blue vinyl. Next up, again, this was another sort of blind buy. I've never heard of this band. I just saw this at an antique store for a reasonable price and it looked interesting. This is the self-titled album by Pig Iron, original 1970 US press blues rock psych. The only album this band ever released. From what I could tell, it kind of just looked like a amalgamation of sort of like session musicians that kind of just got together, put out this album, and then like went on to do other session work for other different bands and artists. But yeah, I really dig it. The vocalist to me sounds a lot like Bob Seger, so like early Bob Seger, like kind of like meets Steppenwolf if you're into that stuff. I really do like it. I think it's really of its time, late 60s blues rock. But it's a really good album, and I can't believe I've never really heard about them before. I've seen other people in the VC show this album. But yeah, really cool if you want to sort of delve deeper into lesser known bands within that genre. This is another recent release. This is Just a Million Dreams by Alan Vega. This originally came out in 1985, and this is a 2023 reissue. Electronic synth pop, the fourth studio album as a solo artist, and some of you may know Alan Vega was one half of the band Suicide. I've never really listened to Alan Vega's solo work. I really only have listened to the stuff he did with Suicide, but I remember reading in Henry Rollins' Stay Fanatic book that he really raved about this album. He even does like a little sort of introduction piece that he writes on the sleeve of this album. But yeah, again, I don't really know how I feel about it. It's kind of has more of like a generic 80s pop thing. I just really don't remember anything from this album because it kind of just like went through one ear and out the other. Again, I think I just have to give it a few more listens. I think I'm just so used to hearing Suicide that I wasn't really fully open to listening to Alan Vega's differing solo stuff. So I think I just have to give it more listens. I thought this was a cute fold. But yeah. And then it also has a few like unreleased tracks on it as well. And this one came on translucent yellow vinyl. Next up, we have a band I have been really getting into lately. I've always loved this band, but you kind of just like go through phases where you're really getting into a certain genre or time of music. I've been really getting into the sort of rockabilly revival of like the 80s, early 90s, the Blasters, Reverend, Horton Heat, Robert Gordon. But this is the full custom gospel sounds of the Reverend Horton Heats. By the Reverend Horton Heats. This originally came out in 1993. This is a 2022 U.S. press. Psychobilly, Rockabilly, this was their second studio album. I have just really been loving a lot of Reverend Horton Heat stuff. I actually have the original 10-inch of Smoke 'Em If You Got 'Em. I really need to get the full-length album of that because, of course, the 10-inch doesn't have Psychobilly Freakout, which is probably one of the best known Reverend Horton Heat songs on it. But yeah, this is just the recent reissue Sub Pop did of his earlier work, and yeah, I would like to get all of them eventually. And this one came on really cool sort of Coke bottle clear vinyl. Next up, as a lot of you may know, I'm a huge Queens of the Stone Age fan, and I surprisingly did not own any of Caius's records. Caius is the band that Nick Oliveri and Josh Homme were in before they kind of went their separate ways and then got back together in the late 90s to form Queens of the Stone Age. This is Blues for the Red Sun by Caius. Originally came out in 1992. This is the 2021 U.S. press alt stoner hard rock, their second studio album and the last album that had Nick Oliveri on bass on it. This is really sort of a seminal album in the whole stoner rock, desert rock movement of the early to mid 90s that would go on to have bands like Fu Manchu as well, and then Queens of the Stone Age later on. But yeah, I have always streamed Caius' stuff. I've listened to Caius, but I just have never had any of their records. So I'm very excited to finally have something from them in the collection. Next up, we have, again, another band for some reason I didn't have in my collection, even though I love them. This is Goo by Sonic Youth. This originally came out in 1990. This is a 2016 U.S. press, avant-garde indie noise rock. Their sixth studio album, considered to be one of alt-rock's most important albums, and this has one of my favorite Sonic Youth songs on it, Cool Thing. That's like one of the earliest Sonic Youth songs I remember listening to that really got me into the band. And you have Chuck D doing his little thing on there from Public Enemy. But yeah, this is just like one of those albums I feel like no matter what kind of music you really listen to, if you collect records, you just like need to have this in your collection because it's just so seminal in alternative rock and noise rock. But yeah, so many good songs on here. Dirty Boots, Cool Thing, obviously. Disappear, Mildred Pierce is another good one. Titanium Expose, love that song. But yeah, I really need to get more of Sonic Youth's albums. And so the last of this bunch of records I got are some of my highlight picks from a really generous box a viewer of mine named Craig sent me. I think like probably around like Christmas time. But he sent me this very generous box that had records and a whole bunch of 45s and books and movies and patches and stickers and t-shirts, and it was just extremely generous. So thank you, Craig. I know I sent you a long thank you thing on Instagram, but I really wanted to give some of the records you sent me some time to shine in one of my videos. Obviously I'm not going to show you everything he sent me because we would be here for a while, because again, it was just a very generous box, but these are some of the things I was most excited to get from that box, and I'm going to save the very best for last. First off, we got House Rockin' by the Gories. This originally came out in 1989. This is a 1996 US press garage blues rock. This was their debut full-length album. If you are not familiar with the Gories, they were a very influential band from Detroit, Michigan, kind of like the White Stripes before the White Stripes. Sort of part of the garage rock 60s revival with this hint of blues in it. Just very influential. I think someone was telling me when I had mentioned the Gories in the past that there's a mural in, I think, the Third Man Records in Detroit of the Gories, because I think they just had to be a huge influence on Jack White and the White Stripes. But yeah, I love the Gories. They're just one of those bands when I hear people listen to the Black Keys or, you know, the White Stripes, I'm like, have you listened to the Gories? They're so great. But yeah, I have one of their Sub Pop Club 7 inches, but I don't have any of their full-length albums, so I was very excited to see this in the box. And then next up, the Queen of Country herself, again, another person I'm shocked I don't have in my collection. This is Just Because I'm a Woman by Dolly Parton. 1976 US press is a sort of just a compilation album, some of her hits from that time. Folk country, I mean, Dolly Parton is just a fucking queen. She's just so cool, so ahead of her time, just so intelligent, so smart, such a gifted songwriter. She just kicks ass and just stands up for what she believes in, and she doesn't really care about the repercussions, and I just really admire her, and she's just so cool. And she recently just released like a rock album. Like, how fucking cool is she? Anyways, but yeah, who doesn't love Dolly Parton? I again have always listened to her music, but her records are becoming very hard and expensive to find, I think, because there's just been this whole new resurgence of people from my generation, even younger, discovering how just talented and cool she is and like getting into her music. So yeah, I don't think I've ever found any of her records out in the wild. But yeah, we got Mule Skinner Blues on here, Big Wind, Love Isn't Free, DIVORCE, Divorce. I love that song. Just Because I'm a Woman, obviously, The Fire's Still Burning, Daddy. But yeah, I'm just excited to have anything by Dolly Parton in the collection, and she's absolutely serving in that pink jumpsuit. I need something like that in my clothing collection. Next up, we have All American Alien Boy by Ian Hunter. This is an original 1976 US press, rock, power pop, his second solo studio album. The main reason I've been on the lookout for this album for quite some time. I do like Ian Hunter. I like what he did with Mott the Hoople and a lot of his solo stuff, but the main reason I wanted this record is because Jaco Pastorius plays bass on here, and I believe he also plays guitar on one of the songs. I think it's You Nearly Did Me In, and then you also have Queen doing backing vocals on You Nearly Did Me In. But yeah, I love Jaco Pastorius. I have talked about him a lot on this channel. He's just a very underrated musician who is just so influential to so many people. And unfortunately just had a very short, tragic life, sort of like tragic genius story. I've talked about him too many times on this channel, but I'm sort of on the hunt to get everything he's ever played on, and this was one of the big ones I just didn't have so far, so I was very excited to get this. Next up, a record from one of my all-time favorite bands. This is A Date with Elvis from the Cramps. This originally came out in 1986, and this is a 1990 US US press. There we go. Actually didn't know that in Europe this was released in 1986, but this wasn't released in the US until 1990. But yeah, garage rock, punk, psychobilly, if you're not familiar with the Cramps. Their third studio album, and it includes 4 additional tracks that weren't included on the original European release. And this is the only album to include Poison Ivy on vocals, who is the guitarist. But she sings vocals on Kiss My Ass. Love that song. But yeah, I love the Cramps. They're just one of those bands that, like, anytime I see anything from them, I need to have it. And this was one of the albums I did not have yet, so I was very excited to get this, let alone an original US copy. And it came on this really cool, again, sort of clear Coke bottle vinyl. And then another one from was becoming like one of my favorite bands. Is it Manor Astroman by Manor Astroman? This is an original 1993 US press, surf, garage rock, space punk, if that's even a thing. They definitely made it a thing. But this was their debut full-length album. They do a lot of 45s. I have a lot of their 45s. I have another, I think their second full-length album, which I think Craig also sent me in the last box he sent me a while ago. But yeah, I was so excited to see this. I love Manor Astroman. They're just so unique, and their sound is just crazy, and I love them. But yeah, Manor Astroman. He also sent me a Manor Astroman t-shirt, which is really cool. I definitely have to wear those in one of my future videos. And then, last but not least, the piece de resistance, the thing that made me cry when I saw it, because I've been looking for this 45 for a really long time. This is one of those 45s that got me into 45s. But this is a signed copy of Link Wray's original Rumble 45, as you can see. Link on there. And then it also has the swag on the B side, but he sent me, Craig put these post-it notes on it, and of course I keep everything everyone sends me, so I just left them on the sleeve that it was in. But it says, Sam, this is the record I wanted to send you for over a year, but I like the never. I figured you would appreciate, enjoy. And then it says, Link signed my record at a 2003 show. He just signed his first name this time, so that's why I got like kind of a smudgy link. And then he also sent me 2 of the concert tickets from when he went to see Link. I'm assuming this is from, I don't know if my camera will focus, but from the show that he signed the record at. And then this is from an earlier show from 1997 that Link also signed. But yeah, when I saw that in the box, I literally cried, because for one thing, I've been looking for this 45 forever, and then just to have someone send it to me signed by Link Wray, and then also sending me like their signed concert stubs, like that's just so freaking cool. And again, I can never thank you, Craig, enough for sending me that. This is something I'll cherish forever. But yeah, those are some of the recent vinyl pickups I have gotten. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.